Crown Heights had its genesis in the early 1900s as a neighborhood which catered to the rich. Most of its residents actually lived in Manhattan and had their second home or a vacation home in Crown Heights. The situation was further compounded by the newly built subway, the 3, 4, 5, and 6 lines that not only went through Crown Heights, but had a few stations along Eastern Parkway. During this period, it was 75% Jewish, the other 25% comprised of the Irish and Italians. In the 50s and 60s, when black people from West Indies started to move in, they were only able to live, however, on the quote-unquote back blocks, the side streets, as Eastern Parkway was reserved for the wealthy. As the Irish, the Italians, and Jewish Americans began to move out primarily into the suburbs of Long Island, thanks to the GI Bill, which was a bill signed by FDR extending many benefits and privileges to World War II veterans to help them assimilate back into society as civilians. In addition to that, black Americans from the South began to move up into Crown Heights. And in the late 50s, it was like 1957, Ebbets Field was demolished when the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Major League Baseball team, the Brooklyn Dodgers, moved to San Francisco, which was considered the end of Crown Heights as it was known then. Ebbets Field was demolished to make room to build new public housing projects to house the new arrivals from the Caribbean. They did this by way of grants for college and universities, low interest mortgage rates, small business loans, and hiring preferences, which went to veterans of World War II. Now, though black people did fight in World War II, the GI Bill primarily benefited white Americans first, because there were more white Americans first off. So that's going to be regardless. And then second was because of discrimination. During the time we had actual racism with certain towns that black veterans wanted to move and they couldn't, because the towns had ordinances where they could only allow white residents. That changed, however. Also in the military, black people were confined to a role of labor. They weren't really fighting in the roles in the war, which required high levels of critical thinking, because it was wrongly assumed at the time that black people were incapable of this. This was proven wrong by a gentleman in Pearl Harbor who dragged his wounded white commander away from harm and manned a machine gun and began to retaliate without any prior military training, which shattered that myth.